How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your favorite show hosts, Still.
Fenarian.
And Wallace Allen, we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it has been. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, the easiest ways that you can do so is by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, most easily accessed by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the show logo on any of our recent show posts, if there are any recent show posts actually up on the front page.
Haven't gotten
You
around
might
to
have
it
to
this
dig a
week.
little bit. At any rate, that will take you directly to our Discord server. You can post in our various channels and communicate with other listeners to the show and the show hosts in real time, anytime during the week, but particularly during the show when we're actually sitting in front of our computers.
Usually.
Sometimes, if I look at the other screen.
I try real hard.
I multitask too much. Way too much. Alright, so this week on the stream, I'm playing a bit of Frostpunk. It came up for sale during this last week, and it's been one I've been keeping an eye on for the last year.
You're cutting in and out a little bit on my end.
Oh
Just a
dear.
hair, but he seems
Okay.
fine
Yeah.
now.
It's
It was
I
maybe
think
just-
it's
I'm
like
just not projecting enough.
yeah, it's your mic's cutting you off because you're too quiet.
Yeah. Alright. So, Frostpunk. It's a game about not dying in the cold. That's basically it.
Well, not dying in the cold is something that I would class as superior to dying in the cold.
Yes, definitely. I might just do an endless mode for this one. Let's just do a Serenity mode. I don't want to just horribly fail this on the stream. So, yeah, the idea is somehow Earth has been thrown into a snap ice age. There is a reason for it, but you have to play through the story in order to find that out.
The day before the day after tomorrow.
That kind of thing, yes. Except, Victorian London. So humanity is kind of clustered around these big steampunky generator things in order to not die. So yeah, you just build up your city. You've got to manage your population, so manage your food. Heat is your big killer in a lot of cases, because as you go along the game, Earth just keeps getting colder. So
Suboptimal.
very suboptimal. If you fall behind on heat production and heat management, installation, any of that, then people are going to start freezing to death. So, yeah, good times. And let me see. Oh, well, that's a really big crater. So yeah, it's not an easy game. As you go through the story, it keeps throwing new challenges at you and things like that. You get over one challenge, and before you've really had a chance to recover, something else gets thrown at you, be it another cold snap, or a storm, or an influx of refugees, or, whatever. And honestly, it's impossible to really play the game as a kind of the benevolent leader the entire way through, because if you try that, you're going to end up with, an overpopulation and no food. Everything.
Build that wall.
Yeah. So at the end of that, you've got to choose who lives and who dies.
Build the wall.
Well, you kind of live in a crater, so the wall's already there.
Build another wall at the border.
More walls. Let's just go with this one. That'll do. Okay. So yeah, I haven't reached the end of the main story yet. I've reached a rather nasty point where I've been influxed by refugees with a really heavy cold snap and a storm on the horizon. So, methinks people are going to die.
So is it just randomly generating these challenges?
Not for the story mode, no.
Right. So you know at least that it's solvable.
Yes, supposedly.
Given that you're in a position to solve it.
Yeah. From what I've gathered from this upcoming bit of hardship, but the game has more or less just said, you're not going to be able to do anything with this. It's going to get too cold. You're not going to be able to produce any resources. All you can do is prepare and then ride it out. So I'm expecting I'm going to lose half my population. But this mode that I've just fired up is just the sandbox mode. It's the primarily the building mode rather than the try not to die mode, so it's a bit more relaxed. I'm still expecting people to die in the cold though. Alright, so that's that. As for the weeks, a good chunk of my week has been Monster Huntering. Because the Spring Carnival's happening. And there's fat Jagresses everywhere. Well, there were fat Jagresses everywhere.
Yeah, I miss Fat Jagras.
Yeah.
I don't know why they keep taking Fat Jagras away from us.
They do this
Everybody
annoying
loves
thing
Fat
where halfway through the span of the event is Fat Jagras disappears and Fat Levasioth shows up. And Fat Levasioth is just terrible.
Yeah, I don't like that guy.
No,
I don't like him at all. He's not cool.
He's not cool at all. So I
Quite
put,
hot, in fact.
yeah, with the Spring Carnival, almost all of the previous events are up. So if you want to have another crack at Extreme Behemoth, you masochist, you can. If you want to farm up Tempered Elder Dragons for their really good armor sets, you totally should. And if you want to farm Fat Jagras for Disappointment, then he's got that in spades.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, even though they're very, very generous with the dropping of decorations from Fat Jagras, so not necessarily of Vazioth, the odds don't get any better. Like, you've got a lot of rolls, but you've got a lot of rolls on a tiny percentage.
Yeah, so things like his drop rate for the gems you're after really are the warped ones. That's where all the really good stuff is. Warped and I believe it's mystical? Anyway. So in order to get the gem you want, a lot of them have very low odds even on that. So the odds of getting a warped gem from one of his drops is something like 2%. And then the gem you want inevitably has a less than 1% chance of actually coming from that. Not bitter, because I looked at the numbers for the artillery gem. I need artillery gems, but I'm not getting them.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any of the ones that I'm looking for either. But that's the thing with the decoration grind, though. As well, it's a horrid grind. It's also not. It's not crucial.
No,
it's not crucial the way. It's not crucial the way that the you can't move up to the next tier of play without getting the right stream stones. Whereas with decorations are basically just little extras that enhance little things here and there. Whereas your power level as a whole is dependent on whether or not you can begin doing augments, and without revamping your playstyle to change to a totally different main weapon. Yeah, I'm still in that particular hell right now. Because I still haven't managed to get... I've got one, but I still haven't managed to get my second stream stone to actually augment a greatsword. Like, ugh. I don't even know which one I'm going to augment yet.
Yeah.
But I still haven't managed to get one. I've got everything but. It's really, really, really frustrating.
Yeah. I managed to scoop a few, I guess, out of farming Tempered Valhazak. Enough that I was able to upgrade the Devil Joe gun lance.
I don't know. Well, I mean, if I was a gun lance main, I could upgrade a couple gun lances as well at this point.
Yeah.
But I wonder what Iceborne is going to do with the power curve. Like,
yeah.
They can't just say, oh well, you have to have, a full set of in-game arch-tempered Xeno'jiiva farming gear with full augments before you can start Iceborne. They can't go that route. But on the other hand, they can't put the first 2/3 of the content in the expansion at a trivial difficulty level. So I'm not really sure how they're going to do it.
It is a bit of a conundrum. They are more or less going to hit the reset button with the implementation of G rank or Master rank, I believe they're calling it. So we shall
Yeah,
see.
but what does that mean though? Does it just mean that they're going to give everything a million more hit points?
That's one way of doing it. Like, there's a noticeable jump up between low rank and high rank, primarily in just stats. In the past, it's been pretty much that. Some monsters will get new moves, but it varies a bit. So I think we just really got to sit back and wait for an info dump.
Yeah, that may be so.
Yeah. Well, it's been a reasonably good week in terms of Monster Hunter farming. I've gotten some of the things I want, a lot of the things I don't. This is the way this game goes, unfortunately.
Yeah. But, I mean, at least, like, I don't feel like, despite the fact that I can't get up to that top tier of content, it just makes things hard for me. It doesn't make things impossible, at least. Like, I'm still able to farm Arch-Tempered Valhazak if I feel the urge to do so. It's just not great fun.
No, Arch-Tempered Valhazak does not mess around. None of the
I think
monsters do.
I find that Arch-Tempered Val is challenging, but not onerously so most of the time, provided that, you know, if I get off to a good start, I'll usually get off to a fairly clean finish.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get off to a bad start, everything will be wrong forever. It's terrible. But yeah, I find that the biggest risk with Arch-Tempered Kushala is running out of time.
Yeah.
Like, even though you've got a full 50 minutes to do it, the amount of hurting that I can put on that guy is just not enough most of the time. It's really rough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, momentum is a big deal in these hunts.
Yeah. So once you start getting those staggers going, then you can usually, provided you're keeping track of where you're fighting, you can usually trigger a few staggers in a row. Like, that's been my Tempered Joe murdering method, has basically been to make sure that I'm basically don't attack anything but his feet and distribute my hits in such a way that he's never standing without flinching for too long.
Mm-hmm.
Because once Joe gets momentum, boy.
yeah, you're kind of done.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that one.
Yeah, giant angry pickle. So yeah, it's been good actually having all these events pop up again to kind of fill in some gaps. I have a scheme for a big, powerful armor set centered around the Valhazak armor, but it requires gems, and those gems aren't dropping. So yeah, I kind of hope they do something to curve this grind a bit with Frost Iceborne. Particularly just getting screwed over by the random number god. That happens a lot.
There's a lot of possible approaches they could take, and some of them would be, you know, pretty dire if they actually did. So
yes.
yeah, I'm a little bit sort of concerned about what their approach will be. There's a lot of bad things could happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They've done this a lot of times now, but don't they normally just release a new game?
Or a new version of a game. They're very fond of putting out the ultimates and the X's and, you know, whatever. It's kind of been their model for a lot of things because, you know, Capcom.
Yeah.
Capcom. Why are you so Capcom?
You're cutting out an awful lot, Fern. I can barely hear you.
I'm mumbling. I need to stop doing that.
Yeah, it was just for a bit there.
Yeah.
But
that's okay because I'm the host. I get to mumble a little bit and doesn't affect the other end.
As long as we can understand you.
Yeah. As far as what else I did for this week, not too much. Played Frostpunk and have been putting a bit of a hurting on Borderlands the pre-sequel. And I'm continuing to play through as Claptrap. despite all common sense to the contrary.
I blew through that game as fast as possible in about less than 10 hours. About 8 hours again.
It's
Not this past week, but the week before. And
yeah,
oh boy, Pre-Sequel's a bad video game.
it's not that bad. It's not as good as the other
Go
Borderlands, though.
go play Borderlands 2 immediately after it, and every single design choice in Pre-Sequel will just make you go, why?
Yeah, I know.
I've not seen a series downgrade so hard between iterations of itself.
They handed it
Holy
off
crap.
to the B team, the Australian B team, more the point.
Australians.
Well, essentially what they've done is just turned the Pandoran Moon into Space Australia. Which I
What,
kind of
literally?
find both amusing and incredibly irritating. Because everyone's running around and talking in really stupid accents. And they're not, fake Americans doing bad Australian accents. These are Australians doing bad Australian accents.
Yeah, everyone knows it's Nazis that live on the moon.
Apparently, yes.
Nazis are everywhere. They're in every single molecule.
The Nazis are reality. Oh, jeez. So, yeah, I've been having fun with it, but it does have some issues. Like the amount of pointless backtracking in a lot of cases.
The
It's
game
not-
has the worst case in the Borderlands 1 was already pretty bad about not centralizing the quests.
Yep.
Borderlands Pre-Sequel is even worse.
Yep. Generally,
Borderlands
you
2
do
is
the,
pretty good about it, but
yeah. Generally, you
Not-
do the
not
main
Pre-Sequel.
story in a new area, and then it just dumps quests onto you from that point. But they're not centralized. You have one right up at the north end, one right at the south, one right in the east, and maybe one in the middle somewhere. Screw west.
yeah, it's not going back to Sanctuary, talking to the board and a couple NPCs in town, and then go running off to one or two areas to do quests, come back, turn them all in, and keep going on the main story.
Mm-hmm.
Or get in a new town or a new area while you're progressing the main quest, see a board with a ton of quests on it, do them all, and then move on.
Yeah. So it gets to the point where I've been playing the game and I've kind of been ignoring the side quests for the most part, unless they're kind of right there. Because it involves just going way out of my way to do a quest for a gun that's probably rubbish. Then I'll just
Yeah, I can't do
vendor.
that. It's a thing that says it can be completed.
I'll do
Yeah.
it if it's interesting or if it's on my way or it offers a good reward. If it doesn't hit at
Optional?
least one of those criteria, I'm not doing it.
And then there's the wonderful side quest: collect 50 white guns and deposit them in the box. So your main source of revenue is gone until you fill that box up if you're pursuing that quest.
I
And
have
you-
not encountered that quest. I do not
It
want
is
that
the-
quest.
That quest has a legendary oxygen mask that has a really good stats on it and is basically mandatory if you want to do anything like stay out of an oxygen bubble for very long.
Claptrap, not an issue.
And also has a huge ground slam effect. Stuff
Nice.
like that.
But if you're playing as Claptrap, then you've got to be Claptrap.
You've got to be Claptrap, unfortunately. There is an expansion pack where you explore Claptrap's inner mind.
I've
Uh,
heard good things about the DLC.
People have said that it is actually better than Tiny Tina's. And Tiny Tina's is great.
Tiny Tina's was something that infuriated me for personal reasons.
Because of the wokeness.
Oh, just because it's like, you idiots, my D&D group is all girls, shut up.
Yeah, that's unfortunately through both Tiny Tina and the pre-sequel there's a...
Actually, I saw a thing going around on what is that noise?
That's
It's
my
not on my
phone.
end, is it? Okay, throw it in the bin. I saw a thing like that going across my my social media feed the other day about some TV show on one of those, I don't know, like Netflix or something. I don't know. I don't have any of those services, but it was a TV show which was basically about it's sort of like D&D, except all of the players and the DM are women, and it's like Disney princess themed or something.
Why?
yeah, it sounded absolutely appalling. And the person that was, I saw it when somebody had retweeted somebody saying that they were going to watch it and see how long they could go without drinking. And
I'm putting that down
I
to
think
minutes.
I think it was a woman that was going to watch it as well, and her verdict by the end of one episode was along the lines of that she basically hated everybody involved, and it was the reason that nobody wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons with girls is because they thought it would be like this show. So presumably it was all like sniping and backbiting the entire time.
A Disney princess themed D&D campaign. What would you actually accomplish with that? Like Disney
I don't know.
princesses
I didn't
really
look into the
don't
fine
do
detail.
anything.
I'm not even going to try and speculate on how that was written. Somebody must have butt dialed me.
Yeah.
Because nobody answered.
Oh.
Yeah. Though it wouldn't be the first time I've got called it after 11 o'clock.
Butt dials are fun.
Well, it could have been worse. It could have been your boss calling you saying the auditors are coming.
I would have popped a blood vessel.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to that because damn.
But yeah, no, Tiny Tina's just hacked me off. But I've heard good things about not for any of the content Tiny Tina's. I actually do not remember very much of the Borderlands expansion content because I only ever played through it once.
Yep.
And I think it was only on normal mode at that, just to see the story at the time. I've already forgotten all of it.
Yeah.
It was, so it has not stuck with me very well.
Let's face it, nobody really plays Borderlands for the story.
Yeah, no. So I do not remember much of the Borderlands X packs specifically, except for General Knox. I do remember that one.
That one actually had a good story through it too.
Yeah. That one was a big X pack too.
Yeah.
It wasn't X pack at all. It wasn't really just DLC. It was an expansion.
Yeah. So I remember that one. Borderlands 2 ones, while substantial in amount of content they gave you for a $15 price tag at the time, they were mostly forgettable. I've heard really good things about Claptrap's thing.
Yep.
The pre-sequel it sucks until you just period. The main game just sucks.
Yeah.
It is a downgrade from Borderlands 2. You will have an easier time convincing me to roll up my 7th Siren and go replay Borderlands 2 than play with you in pre-sequel.
Yeah. As far as gameplay goes, it is very just no. I'm enjoying it, but that's because it's scratching a Borderlands itch. Mind you, I've already got Borderlands 2 pulled down to play immediately after I'm done.
Yeah, I would very much so recommend you jump to Borderlands 2 ASAP.
Might play through
It is a much better.
Next time.
There are not even any quality of life differences between the two games.
Nope.
Like it's pre-sequel is just a straight up worse game in every respect.
So did they just hand it over to the B team and said, "Crap out another one of these, please"?
Basically, yeah.
Pretty much.
We need to tell people want more Handsome Jack, so we're going to tell his origin
Do
story.
they though?
Yeah.
Yeah, people want Handsome Jack though, not Jack.
Not Jack, before he becomes Handsome Jack. Well, because Jack is sane-ish.
I do not think they did anything for the franchise or the characters by trying to shed some light on the backstory of the psychopath that is Handsome Jack.
Uh-huh.
He worked a lot better as just a nebulous, evil, crazy person.
Yeah.
Well, he because he was Hyperion embodied, basically. He was supposed to be. This is the logical endpoint of sociopathic ultra corporatism. Like that was his character. His character was like what every communist thinks a business owner is. Like, that was the whole point.
Yeah.
But if you humanize him, then it's not fun anymore because he's a person instead of an archetype. And realistically, something like Borderlands runs on archetypes, not personality.
And you get this weird case with Jack between 2 and the pre-sequel where you have likely played 2 first, in all likelihood. So you've already established Jack as that character type rather than the person, because no reasonable person would try to humanize somebody as crazy as Jack. So when they do try to add all this characterization to Jack in the pre-sequel, you're just like, you don't even switch your viewpoint. You're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
The whole time, you're just like, can you start being crazy now? Shut up. I don't care. Say the funnies, Jack.
I'm on the home stretch of the game now, and I was kind of just thinking at this point, just finally, he's going insane. He's losing his marbles. If you want a better characterization of Handsome Jack, go play Tales from the Borderlands. Just go play that.
Yeah,
then
that's the sort of backstory that I think was relevant to Handsome Jack. Like what you learn about Handsome Jack is the environment that grew up around him. Like what was Hyperion like with Handsome Jack at the head? That's what you learn about Handsome Jack, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't care about Handsome Jack killing his boss. We don't care how he got to own the company. We care what he did after he became Handsome Jack.
I mean, if we knew a Hyperion without Handsome Jack, if we knew who his boss was, then maybe that story beat would have been relevant, but it's not.
But no,
like,
Tasker, I don't even think you see him in game. I think he's just an echolog recording that talks to you sometimes.
Yeah, like the whole point of it is just that, oh well, he's this embodiment of this, like the corporation. He's basically the head of Google gone mad.
So the head of Google.
Yeah,
but yeah,
pretty much.
But yeah, it's just bad. And the story itself is, Borderlands is not known for having a good story, but the story in pre-sequel, for some reason, probably because I was already pissed off at it because of Jack, but haven't done it in a while.
Well, up until the point Jack actually does start becoming Handsome Jack, you've got the bad guy is Zarpedon, and she's by and large a non-entity for most of the game.
You don't see him interact with her very much. She doesn't antagonize you like Jack does, and Jack's ultimate plan at the end is to use an eyeball.
Yeah.
To make a laser beam.
The Eye of Helios is an actual eye.
When he has a perfectly functional moon cannon that he has used in Borderlands 2 that does the exact same thing.
Does he even have the eye at that point? I don't know.
No, the eye gets you'll I won't spoil it in case you want to remember it, but
yeah, the eye's gone.
Yeah, the eye gets chopped up into pieces, and you try to put it back together in a side quest. It doesn't work. But yeah, it rings really dumb even for Borderlands. Like, just not dumb in the Borderlands way, but lazy. Like, they couldn't come up with any original ideas, and the ideas they did recycle were not interesting at all. They took the most hated part of Borderlands 1's narrative aspects, the Destroyer, and brought it back.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to justify the existence of the Destroyer, instead of, being the giant space flea from nowhere. Well, giant vagina from nowhere.
I assumed that boss existed because they ran out of development time. Like, they simply hadn't written anything past that point, and they're like, oh well, it's time to submit now, so I guess we'll just put a monster in here, a vague amorphous thing with tentacles, and call it good.
Yeah.
Borderlands.
It's more about the journey anyway, right?
Yeah. I'm so glad we got Nox to punctuate that, because that was not a good feeling ending.
No, it was a really rubbish ending, but General Nox was a really good follow-on.
But
when they do sit down and want to actually tell a kind of a wacky story with Borderlands, or a story about a crazy person, they're not bad at it. But yeah.
Well, the Borderlands style and universe is
crapsack.
rife for picking up and running with and making something cool out of, because it's so absurd. That's how Telltale was able to grab it and run with it so hard. That, and they projected onto Reese as hard as they could, as they admitted in an interview, and it made him really easy to write, apparently.
Because the work environment at Telltale was hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole interview from somebody that quit Telltale that said Reese was everybody's favorite character because everybody projected onto him on the writing staff.
So yeah, you end up with this kind of everyman who's stuck in the corporate culture and being shaped by it. I do really enjoy Reese. He's just the right amount of ruthless and goofy.
Yeah.
It's like he wants to be ruthless because he knows he needs to be ruthless in the corporate environment, but he's just enough of an idiot and just enough of a human being that he can't become Handsome Jack.
Yeah. Although we'll have to see what they do with him in Borderlands 3.
Yeah, they can tell a competent story. Borderlands 2 is not a great story. It's not even what I would call a good story, but it's a passable story. You understand who the villain is. He constantly interacts with you. You understand what the warrior is. They talk to you the whole time about it. Getting to it involves sacrifice on the protagonist and the villain, and you have a big showdown at the end.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
And then
It's
guns rain out of everything.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Because
press the
it is
move
Borderlands.
button, and you hope the stupid shotgun drops.
But yeah, Borderlands 2, the writing on its own is kind of bad, but it is held up by having a really good villain.
Yeah, it's structured really well. Pre-sequel is not at all,
Pre-sequel is not, no.
and held back even worse by the gameplay, especially the characters. IMO, either overpowered or boring. Every single one of them.
It's kind of why I went with Claptrap, is because he's got such a stupid design. Like, the other characters all looked rather bland.
But you have to play as Claptrap.
Yeah, you have to play as Claptrap.
So,
Although this
so
particular
it's off
Claptrap does kind of break down mentally as the game goes on.
yeah,
So
in
towards the end of it,
pre-sequel,
you just end up with nothing but maniacal laughter, and that's it.
the only character that is even a little bit competent and fun to play and feels like they're sort of balanced is Athena, and she still has some busted builds.
Oh, yeah.
And her action skill is incredibly boring.
Yeah, Athena is El protagonist for this game.
Yeah, and she's the only character I play because she's the only one that won't outright break the game for you. You have to try to break the game with her.
Yeah. Claptrap, his ultimate can either be completely useless or completely busted. And it's random as to which one you'll get, really. Like, I've had a boss fight where I got Rubber Ducky, which is useless. You reflect bullets and you bounce around uncontrollably. That's about it. And I couldn't take him down with that. But then I got spun up the Mechromancer equivalent.
So you got OP dumb AI bot.
Yep.
He's OP when he works.
Boss was dead in 3 seconds.
Deathtrap is really OP, but Deathtrap is really dumb.
Deathtrap is really, really dumb.
If you can get if Deathtrap could work like for realsies, when you push the button, the engage would be absurdly busted with every single spec instead of just the anarchy spec. But Deathtrap is so stupid that it actually kind of balances itself in a weird way.
In a very weird and backwards way, yes.
Like, he's gonna draw aggro, but he's just going to die if he doesn't do what you want him to. Like, please don't use the laser beam death trap. You're using the laser beam death trap. Please don't shoot the energy ball death trap. Why are you shooting the energy ball death trap? That's going to take 20 years for you to charge, and it's not going to hit anything.
And he's timed out.
And he's dead.
So yeah, I think that's actually kind of what makes Gage fun to play, at least, because she can be broken, but yeah.
I always go back to Zero for hardcore play and Maya for casual fun time completion play.
Yep.
In Borderlands 2, because Zero takes a lot of work to make good, but if you can make him work,
yep,
he does stupid damage.
He does.
Like one shot.
Except with his melee build.
Except with his melee build that scales off his about level 69-ish is when it stops working. It takes a while, and you're in Ultra Vault Hunter mode by then, approaching the end of it, and ready to go into overlevel modes, but it's
you suddenly find that none of your stuff is going to scale anymore, and all of your gear is calibrated for a build that's just about to stop working.
Yep. And
enjoy.
His end game is also go snipers or go home.
Yeah. You can be the sneakies.
But you can one-shot bosses, and it's amazing.
Yes.
It's just such a good feeling when you do line up the perfect shot. You get enough constructors in the way in front of the bunker on the hardest mode, and you land that god tier bore shot, and it one-shots the bunker.
Nice.
Yeah, I usually end up finding that I've got to dig into the gold keys, though. Because if you go a little while without getting a good sniper rifle, that build just implodes on itself.
Zero is easily the heaviest gold key eater.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because you can create as many gold keys as you want just by editing the ini file.
Yeah, and on PS4, I've been playing on the Handsome Collection recently too, and I just went and punched in all the codes, and I still had like over 200 keys to play with.
Actually, last night I looked at what I needed on the PC to upgrade to the Handsome Collection. I needed to give them $1.
Oh.
And that was for the one of the arenas for pre-sequel, and that was it.
Yeah, but when it was when Handsome Collection for $15 on PS4 that has pre-sequel and don't care about that, and its DLC plus Borderlands 2 and all its DLC and Headhunter packs and all the other microtransaction ripoff crap that they did. That was token amounts of content, all for $15. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that again.
Yeah,
that goes good with the hype.
So yeah,
I wish we were segueing into news because there's a good segue here, but
there is. But everyone's kind of gone Borderlands nuts at the moment with the announcement of the pre-sequel and the knowledge that everyone's going to be waiting till 6 months after release to actually buy it.
Yeah, nobody's buying that on Epic Game Store.
No.
Well, I think a lot of people, this is going to be another Modern Warfare 2 boycott group scenario, I think.
Sadly, yes.
I don't have faith in the average person at all, period.
I don't have faith in them to keep the boycott going, but I have faith in their laziness. To break the boycott, they would have to go install the Epic Game Store, and that takes effort.
That is
a lot of them already have it installed because they play Fortnite.
We'll see. It'll be fun to compare the sales numbers, but we'll talk more about
or Rocket League.
We'll talk. We have a bunch of stuff in that block for news, foreshadowing.
So that's my week. Vol, go.
I don't have a great deal to talk about on this week because it's been one of those weeks at work. There were lots of problems to be dealt with, which, in the end, it was one of those things that was, right, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself because nobody else is going to get it right. So, yeah, it was one of those weeks. So I haven't actually played a lot of games. The other thing that's guilty of causing that scenario to play out is the CCC event. So the CCC event as a story has like grand finale, epilogue, conclusion, epilogue to the conclusion, and then bonus content. So I've only done the first ending, like the primary story ending, and I haven't even done the epilogue battle, which is the actual end of the story. Or no, it's not really the actual end of the story. It's so hard to describe because it just keeps going on. It ends more times than Return of the King does. So the scenario that is currently playing out is that I've done all the stuff up to Beast 3, and I haven't done Beast 3. Because, well, it's a nightmare doing Beast 3 cold. It's easier to just grind out all of the Punisher mods that you can apply to it so that it becomes a reasonable boss battle instead of a challenge boss battle. And when I say challenge, I really mean it because she has more buffs and gives you more debuffs than any other fight I have ever seen if you just try and face check her. So, that's on the back burner, but unfortunately what that actually does is you end up in this situation where, well, you've got like 20 bosses just sort of lying around that you haven't done. Actually, I don't know exactly how many it is.
Oh, you mean the wanted bosses?
Yeah, the wanted bosses, which rapidly becomes a soul-destroying slog because every single one of them has a 40 AP cost, and any single one of them can kill you if they decide to.
I have not made much progress in the event since after Passion Lip. I think I'm pretty halted there, but every time I've been grinding and I burn an AP bar, like right when I walk into work, I will deliberately look to see if I can get the next wanted quest that's about to unlock done, just so it's not sitting there on the list because it's going to bug me to death.
I left them to the end, and I'm deeply regretting it now because it is like being locked in boss rush mode forever. Like, there are 14 of them in total. I've done 12, and I'm really starting to burn out because they are rough. Like, it's not like they have anything special about them that makes them hard, but if you're unlucky, like I am, then it becomes hard very quickly. Like today I got completely BTFO'd by Medusa because she just focus fired support, crit, focus fire the next one, crit. Like, just when you're going through a fight where you just lose a servant every turn and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And I'm talking about through defensive buffs as well, because the damage that they do is just that high. If they don't evenly distribute their attacks across your servants, you get destroyed. End of story. No two ways about it. So there's a really hefty luck component. And since they all have break bars, you can't just blow them up in the first turn by stacking all of your buffs out the gate, because you need to survive longer than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're rough. They're rough. They would be a lot less rough if I had been doing them as they came up instead of, leaving them all till the end and having to do them back to back to back, because it's brutal and I'm dying. I'm dying inside.
When does the event end? I've been not playing at all for like the past week.
I think it ends on the 15th or something.
Okay,
it's a super long event because it's basically an interlude chapter. It's not really because it's very important to the lore, unlike the other ones. Like, no, for instance, the Gouda Gouda series, they are only important to the lore of particular servants, whereas this is the lore pertaining to Beast 3R, and considering Beast 3L is important in the Lost Belts, that's sort of, it's more important. Because it's about the structure of the universe and so on as it exists in this particular timeline. So yeah, it's pertinent, which is surprising that they took so long to rerun it. And I think that it'll probably be one of the few events that has a chance of seeing a second rerun because of the sheer importance of it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm currently in boss farming hell at the moment, where I've got to do each one of these things, and some of them really cock block you. Like, you pretty much are forced to use Dust of Osiris against Berserker HXA, because you just have 3 turns of skill seal right out the gate, and you will not survive against a 5-star level 85 Berserker for 3 turns with no buffs. So you have to use Dust of Osiris and take someone who can buff defense out the gate, or you are toast.
I've almost got that thing to level 6. I've been dragging it around with me and farming suboptimally for months now to get that stupid Mystic Code leveled up, because otherwise I'm never going to level it up.
Yeah, I've been trying to methodically go through them, and I haven't really been doing very well. Like, I've got the base one to level 10 and the combat uniform to level 10, but after that I haven't been able to stick to any particular plan. So I've got like Anniversary Blonde is on 6, and Royal Brand is on 2, and Memories of the Far Side of the Moon is on 4. Like, I keep moving around.
I deliberately left my combat uniform at like halfway between 9 and 10, so that when I do use it for serious fights, I can pretend I'm still making progress towards Mystic Code EXP, because it would bug me otherwise.
Yeah,
just finishing it off.
I didn't attempt to finish it off on purpose. It's just that swapping characters in and out was too important to certain events for me, because I didn't have a waiver of my own, is basically what it boiled down to. And I needed, because for the longest time all of my servants were so much weaker than most people's due to my run of bad luck, I had to do a lot of swapping shenanigans because I didn't, the thing that you notice the most if you have bad luck with the gacha is that your low hit points is what really bites you in the backside, because none of your servants have the stickability to last till the final wave. If you've got, you're using mostly 3 stars and a few welfares. So you end up in the situation where you have to keep your 3rd wave fighters in the back line and bring them in using your Mystic Code if you want to have a chance, because you're just going to, your guys are going to be beat up as all get out by the time you get to the 3rd wave. So yeah, for a lot of things like Onigashima and that, it was just like swap. Every match was just based on swapping. So I just had to use it so much that it hit max level. So, oh well. Also, it takes ages to get that last level, so that gives you some idea of how much time I spent using it. But yeah, so I'm working through that, and the way I understand it is that there's going to be another battery of missions after you bring down Beast 3R, and it's during those missions you've got to do the obligatory raise BB's level to X, raise BB's bond to X type missions, in addition to clearing a bunch of other stuff. And then you've got another showdown with BB, and then you've got the final boss, the final boss, who is a nightmare and reminds everybody that Merlin is not the solution to everything. Or in this case, anything, because she's really, really brutal. and it's Shiki.
Yay!
She's the
bad.
actual final boss. And yeah, it reminds everybody who gets to her that actually invincibility doesn't stop death status.
Enjoy.
Shiki is
Yeah.
the most powerful character in Nasuverse. Fifth most if you go by Word of God, but she's really the most powerful.
It's rough. It's rough. It's not even trying not to be rough. So yeah, that's what happens at the end. She's not even she's not even called Shiki, she's just called Monster.
Ah. Well, that kind of says it all, really,
like,
doesn't it?
It's Assassin Shiki for her first break bar, her first 305,000 hit points, and then the second 370,000 hit points is Saber Shiki.
Ugh.
Oh, and by the way, you fight with NP damage down by 50%.
What kind of monster thought up that?
It's rough.
Mine's level 100. You can drag her along to have a mirror match. I don't think mine will last long enough, though. Well,
Thankfully,
really
because it's a monstrously difficult fight, no pun intended. It's not where you get the lore from. The lore comes from the fight before that, which is sort of like the grand showdown with BB. But you do get 5 hearts.
That is 5 hearts.
5 hearts. There's a lot of people want 5 hearts. So
I'll take 5 hearts over a lore.
Yeah, but it's another boss rush just to get to her. Like that final stretch of missions is they all double health pool ones. So there's each one of these has a break bar. So you have to fight Tamamo Caster, Tamamo Lancer, and then you have to fight how does it go? Emiya, and I can't remember which Emiya or in which order. But you have to fight Emiya, then you've got to fight Nero, and then Nero Bride, and then you've got to fight, a pile of shadow servants in BB, and that's the sort of the formal end. But once that's like that completes all the missions. If you get to that point of the event, you've completed everything. The final fight to get the 5 hearts is just a bonus, so you don't need to worry about it if you can't figure out a way to get past constantly getting hit by death on all.
Ugh.
So, yeah. I don't even know if I've got any CEs to help me deal with that sort of scenario. It's rough. I tell you what. But yeah. It's been a fun event. There were some story twists I thought were like M. Night Shyamalan worthy in both the good and the bad sense. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I've enjoyed it. I'm suffering the penalties for my own inaction at the moment. That's all. But it's a big event. There are a lot of fights. That's why, after this many days, I'm still, got a mountain of stuff to do. But yeah, if every event was on this sort of scale, I think that players would actually suffer burnout just from playing the game as it was intended to be played. The gacha has been cruel to me this week. Again, nothing new about that. Partly my fault, partly not. I managed to scratch together another 30 Saint Quartz and proceeded to spend them on the wrong banner. I spent them on the story banner instead. But ultimately, it didn't matter because I didn't get anything that was gold apart from the 1 CE that you always get if you do a 10 pull. Thankfully, it wasn't Codecast. It was Ganda, which isn't much better. So I'm generally speaking incredibly salty right now. The odds of me whaling are pretty high at this point because my luck's been so bad. I probably won't whale to the extremes the way some people do, but I might buy a pack of quartz and spend some on this because I'm going to need to buy some for the June-July GSSR anyway, and there's pretty much nothing that I want to roll between now and then. Like if I had done really well on this event, I might have tried to get a second shoot in, but realistic.
Probably not happening.
Trying to get a second 5-star is just getting greedy. Only Ari gets to do things.
Got 3 Dantes.
And 3 Jeans.
That's right, I did get 3 Jeans. I got 6 Siggies.
Not that additional Jeans really does very much.
It is a burn pull whenever I get one. I guess I'll rank Noble Phantasm up, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, you aren't going to make that integral to your strategy at any point. But, yeah, I mean, I'd like some more Jeans. I use her all the time. But, yeah, so there's a lot of fan art going around at the moment of very menacing Marthas, because it seems to be that it happens to a lot of people, including it happened to me, that Martha seems to have a very strong predilection to crit BB. And of course, being Martha and BB being BB, a crit on BB is like 8 times damage, sort of thing. Because she does you do double damage versus, I think it's double damage, it might be plus 50%, it might be double damage. You do double damage as a ruler versus a Moon Cancer, and because she's a goddess type, your damage doubles again, and when you crit, it doubles again. So,
BB just gets wrecked.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying that they brought Martha along and BB evaporated in 2 turns. She didn't evaporate in 2 turns because I stalled a long time for stability, but as soon as I actually started fighting her for legit, her health bar just vanished. So, yeah, looking forward to breaking out Martha again to deal with the final showdown against BB. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that was the bulk of my gaming, was just sort of chewing through that event. Which is not, I know it's not very exciting spending most of your gaming time on a mobile game, but most people don't have my degree of obsession with the Fae universe, so there you go. Did I do anything else? Did I play any other games? Other than a bit of Monster Hunter, I don't really think that I did. I did play a little bit more Neverwinter Nights 2, but I think that one's sort of fading now. So, being that a mobile game is not exactly the most active sort of gaming, I picked up over the past few weeks watching a random, relatively high tier, but not especially popular, because the popular ones and a bit they seem a little bit artificial sometimes. D&D group who are streaming. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch live because I can't watch live as Americans, but Save or Dice.
I've heard of them.
They've got like a few people from like WebDM and Dawnforged and that. They're not very popular all told, but they're popular enough. The thing that I found, like I find watching D&D entertaining generally speaking, but the thing that I find as a spectator to it is that there's a lot of times where I can see the Dungeon Master is beating the party over the head with a clue by 4 and nobody seems to be picking it up. It's unbelievably frustrating. It must be even more frustrating for a DM.
As a DM, I can tell you that's what the railroad's for.
Sometimes you just gotta blow the whistle and chug along.
It has happened so many times, I can't count, where I have explicitly had a character tell them what they need to do. They forget, and they get lost or don't know where to go from there. I'm like, okay. Okay. Exposition character shows up, tells you where to go, magically knows all the information like she always does. Just do what she says.
Choo-choo.
But I think that they seem to operate very well. Like, they're all quite good at taking the actions that are in character, even if they are not necessarily sensible from the God's Eye point of view, but in such a way that they're not trying to be destructive to the scenario.
Yeah, as long as they're not trying to break up the play group or disrupt the setting, pretty much any personality type can work with any kind of random shenanigans. Any DM should be able to accommodate that if they've done it enough.
Yeah, so I think these guys have operated together very well, and you can see that they're sort of, their characters have matured over time. They've sort of gotten more into the groove of who they want their character to be as time's gone on. Like the bard has just basically become increasingly paranoid over the course of the adventure, and it's now basically questions everything and doesn't believe anybody,
That's a nice
and
change
so on
from
and
the
so
usual
forth.
smarmy ass type bard.
Oh, he's a smarmy ass.
Oh, good.
It's just that he's sort of like he starts off a smarmy ass who is confident, and gradually becomes a smarmy ass who is basically afraid of shadows because everything has gone wrong, like horribly wrong.
Oh no.
But yeah, and there's the I've seen some of the better role play for low intelligence and low charisma that is still good role play without being too, overblown.
I do the equivalent of hard capping my player characters at minimum 8 int in charisma, because nobody can roleplay in real life that are just normies. Nobody can roleplay those well.
Yeah, but at any rate, it's been quite an enjoyable sort of way to have something going in the background while I get my face punched in by the latest boss in FGO. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll leave it there.
Let's blitz my week. Go to a break. I'll need to take the dog out during a break, and then we can get to this news.
All right, let's do that.
So first
Dogs.
things first. Work shenanigans have happened. Discoveries have been made about the state of the nation at work. And long story short, to skip all the details, because I'm not actually sure they need to be put out there publicly, even if nobody will see this, I may have to get another job. So this has.
This is not just for clarification. This is not Arya is going to be fired. This is Arya is escaping a burning building.
Yeah.
This is Arya's been running around the hull of the ship patching holes for months, but the captain keeps drilling new ones right behind him.
We've said your captain is an idiot.
Yeah, my captain is a little special. I may have to. I'm already have set up a time next week on Wednesday to go retake the certification test for Microsoft for networking. So I can get my certification back, and immediately after that, I'm already trying to decide what type of job I want to go for and where I want to work. Preferably somewhere I ain't got to drive to that's a billion miles away and spend $1 jillion on gas. But I have a lot of options open to me for what job I want to get. What I've done at this company has given me a lot of experience in a lot of fields that lets me skip the basic introduction crap. Everything from accounting to sales. I can do a lot of stuff. It's just it will take me a bit to get in with the company and stuff, and they'll still have to give me training for their whatever software they use or whatever they specifically want me to do. But I have a history with a jillion different types of work with this family business because I've had to be the jack of all trades that does literally everything whenever it's needed. So I don't actually know what type of job I want right now, when I could basically apply for anything, given the work environment and experience I have, and it's a very odd feeling. Like I'm just somebody that got a CS degree out of college and wound up working in the family business. I did not expect this many options to be open, and there are plenty of people hiring right now. It's a very good job getting market in America right now.
Okay.
So I'm still figuring all that out, and that is going to consume the majority of my time. In the meantime, just in case I can salvage the problem, because there is one scenario in which the situation at my current job can be fixed, but it effectively involves me blackmailing somebody.
Yeah, it's never a good sign.
Not literally, but literally. I am taking away an asset. Yeah, I am taking away an asset that is me if they don't get it. And I am doing a whole lot of the stuff they take for granted right now. And they cannot function without somebody to do it.
The question in that scenario is always, to what extent do they have perspective on that? Because we lost people at work who left because they were unsatisfied with the way they were being treated, and the management was just totally blithe about it. They're like, "Oh, well, we can replace them." When they were like the only person who possessed a massive amount of knowledge that was needed to make things operate.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they didn't care because they didn't realize how much had been placed on that one person.
I have made it clear before all the responsibilities I've intentionally picked up in the past as I picked them up, and I made them clear at a meeting a week and a half ago, and I will make them clear again at the next meeting that I've set up. Well, will set up. I haven't set it up yet. Yeah. So as soon as I get an interview, there is going to be a meeting with me and about 2 other dudes who do most of the other work in the company, and we're going to sit down with somebody. And I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not going to tell them to do anything, but I'm going to say, all right, here's what you need to do to pull this sinking ship out of the water. If you don't do it, I'm out. No 2 weeks notice, no nothing. This is an at-will employment state.
Mhm.
Well, semi-at-will. But it works both ways. While employers can fire you for anything, you can quit for whatever reason and not give 2 weeks notice.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's how bad it's gotten.
Yeah. Giving the ultimatum is pretty fair, I think.
Yeah. So that is the state of the nation with my life. So I will be very, very busy in the coming weeks, and my schedule. There is a high probability that my schedule will get hit in some way that makes it so I have to rejig everything. And if that happens, the show may have to either be moved, or you may have to go without an RE for a bit until I can get stuff sorted out. We will have to see. It is all still in the planning stages right now, as I just found out this information yesterday, and I've only had half a day to lay it out on the table and start picking through it and sort out what my options are for stuff. So I do not know yet, but just a heads up, this may impact the show, which is why I'm emphasizing it.
Right. But we'll let you guys know if what the schedule changes to, if it has to change.
Yeah, and we will see. It is a turbulent situation that I cannot see the clear skies on. Like this is all fuzzy right now. Until I get some ducks in a row and start seeing some paths open up, I won't really be able to predict what's going to happen. And that hopefully will happen by the end of, probably not this week, but the week after. I will probably have some roadmap planned out where things can where I can give you all an update on what's going to happen and what's likely to happen then. But just know that's happening. So I'm giving you plenty of warning, heads up that there may be changes that we can't really avoid. So yeah. Let's see. What else did we do this week? So before I got the disaster news, I finished Zanku Zero and blitzed the game as fast as humanly possible.
All right.
So blitzing Zanku Zero is not really a thing you can do, as I found out. Because A, the gameplay is slow, and the gameplay doesn't allow it. And B, you have to grind and collect crap. It's kind of a thing you have to do. So I am not very positive on the game. And I'm trying to figure out how to word this without spoiling it for Fern, because he's going through it. I'll say I am biased, and that I do not like this genre to begin with. Period. Like, I don't like survival focused games in general. They are not my thing. This was me giving the Dupaloop team a chance after Kodaka left. And I do not think they have kept the spirit of what made those games good and special. I mentioned the gameplay before, but I will emphasize it again. It is the clunkiest system, even after 20 hours with the game.
Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable to play. And this is my biggest warning to people that are thinking about picking it up. They were very nice to provide through the prologue and to the boss, right before the boss fight in Chapter 1 demo that you can play. It's a meaty demo. Go see if you can tolerate it there before you think of purchasing it. Having to position the cursor where you think the enemy's weak point or parts you want to break is going to be, or try to avoid hitting it so you can deal direct damage to them and just kill them outright if you don't need whatever part it is. And having to do that from squares away while holding down the charge button, and then quickly moving into position after they take a single step so that your cursor is already placed where you want it to bash them. It is very tedious. And I played this on difficulty 3 at first, and then realized that most of the crafting stuff is locked behind difficulty 4, and you can't actually make the better gear unless you're playing on difficulty 4.
Well,
so I bumped it up. Yeah, it's go difficulty 4 to go home, and you can do that immediately after chapter 1.
Right.
So you're going to want to bump it up. Now, this makes it exponentially harder, but it's not absurdly difficult. There are times where you will just be wandering through a dungeon and you'll pull a switch and a pot will fall on your head and wipe your party. Happens.
What?
Yeah, this is a thing that happens. A bunch of the dungeons are just not well put together. There are a few good ones for this style of first-person explorative game, like Etrian Odyssey style map or SMT Deep Dive. I keep forgetting which one it is.
Strange Journey?
Strange Journey, yeah. Or that one. Like, I've played other games with this style of first-person glitchiness. Explore, fill out the map as you take steps. And some of the maps are put together okay. Most of them are not. The first dungeon is fairly flat and easy to figure out. The puzzles aren't very complicated, as you would expect for an introductory dungeon. And then you just get some weird translations. Like, on the boat, there's a boat level. And there's a puzzle that requires you to know the meaning of certain Japanese names that are related to characters in the party to figure out what switches to push.
But the meaning of Japanese names is embedded in the characters, not the words.
Mm-hmm. So here's what you wind up doing, because there are no guides for this game. Period. Nobody's playing it. This ran any guides. You wind up flipping every single combination of switches you can, and every time you get it wrong, an enemy spawns, and you kill it, and you flip another combination of switches, and you keep a notepad next on your other monitor so you can keep track of which combinations you've already flipped.
Oh, joy.
And for the record, I think it's like Sneaker, Doggy Face, and Stop Sign. Fern.
So what?
Yeah, it's a picture of a dog's face, a stop sign, and a sneaker over the switches that you need to hit. This is like stage 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
So when you get to the boat, just remember sneaker, doggy face, stop sign, because I'm going to forget it by the time you get there. And if that's not it, good luck.
Oh dear.
The last dungeon is put together very well. It is a tower that has 7 layers to it. And the top 3 layers where you enter on what would be the 4th floor. It has a base floor, 2 upper floors, and 4 basement floors that lead into the final boss area. And then the final boss area is separate. And the first 3 layers at the top of the tower before you get in the basement have a rig around it that circles those top layers. So you have to explore the outside and the inside of the tower, and you have to run around and solve puzzles to unlock doors in the inside of the tower to make it so you can ascend. And eventually get to the top and flip the switch and enter the basement levels. Past basement 1. I think you can go to basement 1 early. And there's things you can do like drop through the floor. That's really cool. A lot of these type of games do that gimmick to fall to a lower level. And you look and compare your spot on the map where you are now on one map to where you will be if you fall through that spot on another map that you might have explored a little bit. And it's a really well put together dungeon. It is the only one that I have any kind of praise for. The rest of them are pretty bad.
Yeah. I've played the demo one. The chapter 1 dungeon was a bit bland, I found, but given that it's the kind of tutorial dungeon, you expect that.
The second dungeon is not much better. It is better, but it is not much better. And it does not clearly explain one of the switch puzzles, which was one I brute forced, but it is not as punishing as the other ones. You just have to keep trying the switches. So you can just do it in like 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's just a treehouse. Basically, there's a ground floor, and then there is this treehouse. You use ladders to navigate, and you find wonky paths through it, and you can basically go left or right the whole way.
Right.
So yeah, it is interesting, but all it effectively means is you have to run through the whole thing twice because you want to get everything in there.
Yay! Twice
in the game. Pro tip: to save yourself a lot of hassle later. The very first thing you need to level up with every single character is Artist Survival until you can max out every single character's hunting, fishing, and gathering, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The three gathering skills immediately, like before chapter 2 is over, you need to do that, and you need to, as soon as you get the workshop upgraded and where you can build them, you need to, as soon as you get the drops and know where they are and become available. Some of them don't become available until as late as chapter 4. I think the fishing pole has to wait until then, but the other two you can get by chapter 2. You need to get the shovel, trowel thing, whatever it's called, the spade, the hunter net, and the fishing rod, and that needs to sit on a dedicated party member at all times.
Okay. Does it have to be on the front row?
When you use it, but you can just throw it on the back row when you're not using it. So Sachika is my designated mule because she's the only character that doesn't age, so her stuff won't pop out everywhere whenever people die of old age and I'm sleeping outside the hotel. And if I forget about something, if it's on Sachika, I don't have to worry about scrambling outside the hotel to go pick up everything that just dropped on the ground.
Incidentally, something I didn't check in the demo, but if she dies, can you still bring her back, or is that game over?
Yeah. No, you can bring her back.
Okay.
You're encouraged to kill her in many creative ways, just like the rest of them.
Excellent.
Which is a cool feature, and I really like the death system in this game, and it's its best system. But there's a lot of buts with this game.
There are so many buts in it.
But there is no bestiary in this game. And this is a big problem, especially when there are no guides out right now. Because the game requires rare drops from specific monsters that only drop on difficulty 4 and up, and requires each monster and every variant of that monster to kill a character to fill out its Shirabane list, which are bonuses you get permanently when you revive a character after they've been killed in a specific way or after meeting certain requirements in life. Nice. So, because there is no bestiary, it is very hard to identify the difference between the monkeys. There are 3 different types of monkeys in the game, at least, maybe 4.
The monkeys again.
There are 4 different, or at least 3 different lizard types. There are 2 different piglet types. There are 2 different kinds of goats. And the fact that these are distinguished only in the Shirabane list, but there is no separate list to keep track of these things, so that you can be sure that you've been killed by everything, makes it so filling out the Shirabane list becomes the biggest chore in the world, if you want to do it. Plus, you have to get killed by all the bosses. Yeah. Which is just annoying to run to the end of a dungeon after a boss has respawned, after you've already cleared the chapter, and have it kill everybody.
Yay.
Doesn't sound as bad as Mahjong.
No, I had a better time than the Mahjong grind. But it's just not as good. That your payoff for doing all this, if you do not like the genre, is you are supposed to be building up to a decent story that is advertised as by the Danganronpa team. I'm here to tell you, Kodaka was the heart and soul of that team after he's gone. You can tell.
Well, just because it was done by the Danganronpa team, it could have just been the people that did the coding for the engine. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it was there are writers who are just bad without him at the head.
Yeah, and outside of the non-stuff debates, the Danganronpa engine is meant to be a visual novel.
Yep.
It is not meant to be a survival game. And they just picked that thing up wholesale and made it a survival game. But the writing is what's a good way to put this? Not great, not good, somewhere just below passable, I would say, for everybody. Yeah, not quite mediocre, but below passable. Everything just feels like it doesn't have
disappointing.
Yeah, it's not Dupa-Lupa where there's a whole lot of hidden depth with all the characters. Characters recycle the same character beats. They try to do a big twist at the end, and it doesn't have the same kind of impact one way or the other that Kodaka's do. It just kind of falls flat. The timing on telling jokes is not nearly as good. They're not isolated. There is no serious time moment. The jokes just kind of come and at random, as though they were meant to break up tension. This is not how video games work, because the player decides the pacing. You usually want to set your comedy routines off aside. They do not do this, and this is effectively a relatively short VN. So the fact that this stuff is all together wrapped in with the main story just doesn't help anything, and the character's sense of humor is not defined, so it just gets in the way the entire time and gets really, really annoying. If they had stopped at chapter 7, I would have said it was somewhere between passable and good, but everything to do with the writing in the last chapter is like a lead weight on a balloon dragging things down. It's just really bad. And this is not the same feeling I had when I thought V3's ending was bad and came around and thought it was the best ending in the series after forever. It took a while, but I hated V3's ending at first. Same team.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not get this feeling with this one. This was not the same type of feeling where I will eventually get over this, where Danganronpa or V3 made me mad at the ending at first until I thought about it and realized that all the foreshadowing was actually there, and Kodaka was doing his expert meta trolling to just get a gotcha moment on me. That just wasn't here. It was just a butt pull at the very end, and it leaves in.
A lot of people tend to think that an intriguing twist and simply pulling something out of your backside are the same thing.
Yeah. And whatever writer they've got on staff right now does not write characters the way Kodaka does. He tries to, but what he winds up doing is coming off more like a very bad version of Uchikoshi, who does the Zero Escape series. It doesn't, all his characters in Zanki Zero feel like the flattest versions of a Zero Escape character you could ever imagine. Even with an entire chapter dedicated to every single character, each character gets one chapter where everything is about them, and you play from their point of view. And just, they're still shallow. I don't know how else to describe it. They don't do anything with the time they dedicate to them. They don't dedicate enough time to building up these characters in an environment and a game genre and from a developer that you expect a whole lot of character building from. And they just don't get it right. Even the bonding events where characters have their social links together are just really boring, and just most of them are just gags. We had our gags in V3 and Dupalupa. We had Kokichi literally turning into Seto Kaiba and dueling you in Duel Monsters. That was totally not Duel Monsters.
Yeah, that was pretty stupid.
But it was like once per 6 events per character was like that in Dupalupa. And in the social link equivalent in this game, it's like 1 out of every 3 at least. More like half of them are just gags.
Yeah.
I suppose it's like,
to buy this game after all.
The Crimson Grimoire is funny because there's only one place that occurs. If you're working on that level of absurdity all the time, it ceases to be entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do not recommend this game. I went into this with a negative mindset because I don't like the genre, to be completely upfront. So if you want somebody's opinion that likes the genre more, go for it. There are a lot of people trying to white knight this game, but I just don't see it. Yeah. I genuinely don't. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you, unless you're really, really into survival games, you might want to dodge this one.
I wouldn't. Because it's not a survival game. It is only the most thin and...
Well, all the survival elements are up front in your face and obstructive.
Yeah.
And even more so than usual when they're shoehorned into games.
Yeah. My experience with the demo was more of it's an RPG with tedious busy work attached to it.
Yes, very much so. Do any of your characters have to go to the restroom? Got to stop the dungeon, drag everybody back to home base. Work back to base. Yeah, somebody's got to poop. Work back to base. Make sure they poop. Okay, back in the dungeon. Okay, back at door 1. We got to run all the way back to where we were now. How do we get back there again? Let's look at the map for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
This is not uncommon. Did I not bring enough food to keep everybody from starving to death? I better go back to base and fry more rabbits.
There's a reason why video games, as a general rule, tend to ignore the fact that people poop.
Yes. For good reason.
Yes.
And do not just let them poop themselves.
Nope.
Because that gives them a debuff that makes them aggro everything in the map.
Wait, what? What are we talking about again?
Poop, apparently.
If your character has an accident and you don't get them back to a toilet in time, they get the stench debuff, and this attracts every single enemy on the floor you're on, and they will all be aggroed to your position.
Game sounds like, I don't know, something's wrong with this. This isn't natural.
Yeah, don't do that. Also, if you have Danganronpa saves on your console, be mindful if you hear "oo poo poo" in your base, because there's a bear there from a series you're probably familiar with. That if will take you a couple tries probably if you're doing him fresh out the gate to figure out what the heck his attack pattern is. He's a cameo character that drops one of the uncommon upgrade materials that only has a chance to respawn as time passes when he shows up. So he'll give you extra upgrading materials for that to make your Claymore, a +2 Claymore or whatever. And he has a chance to drop the raw version of some of the base weapons that can be a pain in the butt to dig up the mats for. But he's an Easter egg. Monokuma's there. And he has a chance to show up after you discover the first Danganronpa Easter egg poster in the first dungeon, which is basically right in front of you. You're going to walk up and inspect it. And once you've inspected it, it's done. It's turned on. And later in the game, he becomes a source of weapon farming. Early in the game, you just don't want to go near him. But as long as you don't aggro him, he's not going to kick your butt. And he has an increased chance.
Just leave him be.
Yeah, he has an increased chance to spawn the more individual save files of Danganronpa that are on your console.
Mm-hmm.
So, for those that don't know, I was in the front line for Danganronpa V3 as soon as it came out, trying to figure out that stupid RPG minigame and make an English guide for it. Because all the ones in Japanese were completely unreadable with Google Translate, and nobody was doing it for the first week. So me and about 3 other guys on the Dupaloopa Reddit got together and we're putting together information for that RPG game. And this meant making 1 billion Dupaloopa saves that were at set points, so I could test stuff. So the stupid bear was up almost at least 1 out of every 3 times I went back to base.
You had to deal with the poo-poo bear.
Yeah, thankfully you can just ignore him if you want to, but yeah.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually block your bait anything important?
No, I thought he was running towards me, but he just runs around until you hit him.
Okay.
I figured that out later. I'm like, oh, the Poo bear is coming to get me. That's a cool Easter egg. Oh, he just kicked my butt.
Poo.
So, yeah, poo. So yeah, I'll end it there.
All right.
But yeah, that's my recommendation on that, or rather, lack of it. Let's see. And let's do some news.
Yep, we should take a quick break if you really want to, or we can dive straight into it.
I've got to go let the dog out, so y'all can start, but I'll have to go let him out while you do it.
All right,
up to y'all.
We'll take a quick break.
Okay, so we'll be right back after some music. And we're back.
Yes,
In the middle of
indeedy.
this segment, I will probably have to disappear for about a minute and a half at
Goes
some point.
Doggo.
Goes Doggo. Yeah, the person that was normally taking him out decided that they couldn't, and their foot hurt.
So, we have many news.
Yes. Do you have any particular one you want to start with? I think there's a good follow-up one after we foreshadowed it so hard. That's
all
also
right.
the biggest one.
Hit that one first.
Okay,
We'll get the
news
foreshadowing
cluster.
out of the way first.
So we have a news cluster here of
do.
Borderlands 3 and Epic Games. So we'll start with Borderlands 3 itself. Everything was looking good. The hype was building up pretty okay. I was still wary, just in general, because Epic, but everything else was pretty okay. And then Randy Pitchford showed he doesn't know what the definition of the word microtransaction is.
Well, it's not just that. It's that Randy Pitchford seems to have been completely incapable of keeping a lid on it this past few weeks. Every week he has another meltdown on Twitter. Like, I just feel really bad for the PR people working under him who are trying to, like, do a marketing campaign and get people hyped for this. And then every week, Pitchford throws a tantrum on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter's bad for you people.
Twitter is bad for everyone.
Just don't do Twitter. Period.
Yeah, don't
you
Twitter.
can do yeah, we can't stop the world from doing it. But if you choose not to use a personal Twitter, your life is way happier. I guarantee it. I would put money on that.
I have absolutely no regrets about not using social media.
Same. It's so sad to look at these people and see what social media does to them and how it makes them act. And I'm just like, I'm glad I called this as a bad idea as soon as it was a thing.
Smug.jpg. Anyway.
Like, yeah. So, yeah, he's been having so many meltdowns. The most prominent one was there will be no microtransactions in Borderlands 3, except there totally will be.
Yeah.
And this is the one that's made all the headlines, where there totally will be, but Randy Pitchford doesn't know what a microtransaction is.
Well, it made the headlines because it was basically started by Game Informer, who are part of the mainstream shill media, and like the reality is that Pitchford's tantrums have gotten so regular and so extreme that even the mainstream shill media is starting to report on them.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to ignore them.
So he's been going out of his way on stuff like that, and the other big one was the midget controversy.
That one I missed.
It's just like that name, the midget controversy, sounds like it should be referring to something, like some horrible like war that was fought over circus midgets or something.
Short people.
So what's all this nonsense about? Because I missed it.
So this was today or yesterday. It was it's yesterday now is when this popped up. Pitchford had another meltdown. It wasn't as angry of a meltdown, but it was still a spurge out on how the midgets have been renamed to Tinks, and it's totally not censorship, guys.
I don't think anyone's even going to really notice.
I would notice.
I would notice. Them being called midgets makes it way funnier.
Yeah.
I am completely unashamed to state that.
So,
the word midget is a funny word. I'm sorry. Deal with it.
It is an inherently funny word, yes.
Yeah, and this is his whole tweet on this. It's not a censorship thing. We thought it was fun for those little guys to be the scrappy ones. They make little turrets and stuff and dive into scrap piles. We started calling them tinkerers, and that got shortened. It's also something unique to our game now, which is nice.
That sounds like a lie.
That is a bald-faced lie, and everybody knows it. So,
like, we know that they care about being woke more than anything else on Earth. Like, they've already shown that. Nobody's under any illusions.
Yeah.
Who do they think they're fooling? Like that just shows contempt. Once again, shows contempt for the fans. That they think that they're going to be fooled by such a stupid lie.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is a blessing that Borderlands 3 is going to come out late, because I am betting there's going to be a problem with it that's big enough to turn a lot of people off.
It's coming out 6 months late.
Yeah, so we get a whole 6 months of people telling us what they screwed up.
I think it's going to be an unbelievably cringy woke extravaganza by, it's basically going to be written by people who think that they're as funny as the people who wrote the gags for the early Borderlands stuff and who really aren't, because their idea of assessing what is funny and what is not is like how many likes they got on Tumblr.
Ugh.
Like, I'm expecting this to be a disaster. Like, I'll be very happy if it's not, but I don't think that it will be. Like, the rumors that I've heard is that basically the villains are just Twitch streamers. They're like edgy Twitch streamers.
They already did that with Gage, though. Like, that was
When have we ever seen a situation where a team coming in to pick up where another team left off hasn't just mindlessly recycled ideas? I mean, come on. They always do that.
Don't have it off the top of my head, but yeah. So, So I would like to get hyped for Borderlands 3. I have good memories in Borderlands 1 and 2, mostly solo, but some with friends. I would like to pick it up and look forward to this game. But Pitchford's doing a real good job of killing the hype.
I've heard people say, and this is just, I don't have any way of confirming this, but people have been saying that in terms of raw gameplay execution, it's sort of more like Borderlands 2 than any of the others, except better.
Okay, that's good. That's what the sort of thing you want to hear.
Which sounds good. Now just get rid of nomads and we'll be A-okay.
Nobody likes
Stupid
nomads. The stupid shields.
Like, do I really have to use my action skill now because one of these dudes showed up? Really?
I really don't. I don't understand why they called the slowest, least mobile enemy type nomads. How does that make any sense?
I don't know.
Reasons.
They're incredibly obnoxious to fight. Anyway, so yeah, Randy Pitchford is doing his best to make sure his game doesn't sell.
Not for the first time, not for the last time.
Yeah.
This dude is just somebody that thinks he's bigger than his britches.
Is this the same guy that left that USB drive full of barely legal porn at a restaurant?
Is it? I don't remember this.
I think it was Pitchford.
I might have to ask the internet on that.
I am not Googling Randy Pitchford porn.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, that's dangerous. You don't want to be doing.
Let's see.
But yeah, so while Fern looks that up, we can probably transition because we have a lot of news to go through.
Search for Randy Pitchford, and a lot of these articles are basically saying Borderlands 3 looked great, but Randy Pitchford is going out of his way to destroy it.
Yeah, just you can
yes,
follow...
it was Pitchford with the USB drive, by the way.
Oh my goodness. This guy's just a walking PR disaster, really he is.
Why?
Like, can you imagine being the guy who has to cover for his crap?
He'd quit your job on the spot.
So, did we... I can't remember this. Did we talk about that sort of like weird pseudo ultimatum that the Epic Games Store delivered about the Valve cut and that? Did we talk about that last week?
No, we did not. And how complete BS it is.
Yeah, because I want to since this was big news last week, I just want to briefly mention the substance of it.
We kind of ran out of time for everything last week.
Why it's just BS. But so basically, Epic's leader, I can't remember what his title is. The boss man at Epic came out and said that if Steam were to match their 88-12 revenue split, then they would stop aggressively pursuing exclusive contracts and they would put their game on Steam. The obvious intention is to try and make themselves look like heroes. But,
to me, it makes them look like pillocks.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? The part that I find most disappointing is that there will be a lot of people who take this at face value and say, look how great these guys are, they only care about the devs, etc., etc. When this is just the most transparently cynical bullcrap that I have seen come out of the mouths of one of these idiots in a long time. Like, Pitchford may be a PR disaster, but he's a PR disaster because he can't keep what he believes inside. Everything that came out of the Epic guy's mouth is stuff that he absolutely doesn't believe. Yeah, and that's if anything, that's worse.
And what's so funny is let's say that the Steam capitulated and did this. There would not need to be an ultimatum of any kind for Epic not to do the exclusivity deals because they would lose their main bargaining chip.
They would.
Yeah, so the scenario doesn't make sense along any axis. Like it's just cynical no matter what angle you take on it. Because number one, he wouldn't say this if there was a snowball's chance in hell that it would actually happen, and he has every reason to believe that it won't, and it has nothing to do with how much they like the developers. Like Steam, number one, Steam still has a strong market share. There's no pressing need for them to reduce their revenue cut, although it would be advisable for them to look at doing it in the future because, you know, the logic which says that they will never need to reduce their revenue split to maintain market share is the same sort of logic that resulted in IBM no longer being a leader in the computer industry. So you don't want to set that in stone. But right now, there's no pressing urge for them to do that.
Nope.
Number two, their platform provides a gazillion features that Epic's doesn't and was built from the ground up around that 30-70 revenue split. That's the way of that they've always operated, and they're offering a lot for their cut. Not enough to justify their cut. Their running costs aren't actually substantially more, but they do offer other things, like they eat the cost for money transfers, and they have all of these things like the Steam Workshop, and they've got their friends lists and their social media features and their pages and their various leaderboards and statistics tracking and a shopping cart, you know,
Yes.
little things like that.
Reviews.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of systems in place that Epic just doesn't. So Epic is saying that, well, they should have to supply something that we don't for the same price. So that's not obviously that's not going to happen. But he's just it's such a cheap PR move. It's like, because there will be some portion of people who would take him at face value, and he knows that that's an instant win. When anybody who looks at it for more than 5 minutes will see that, number one, it's never going to happen. Number two, there's no reason why it would happen. And number three, he wouldn't follow through in the weird scenario that it did happen. He would be forced to by the market, because he would just stop selling things on his own platform. So this is like a zero cost thing that wins him some finite a number of advocates online. And I just think it's a really disgusting level of cynicism. Like, it's some of the most cynical stuff that I've seen, because of sheer dishonesty. Like when Bobby Kotick says that, yeah, we made an enormous mountain of money, but we wanted it to be bigger, so we're firing all you guys. That's cynical, but it's honest.
Yeah.
This is both cynical and dishonest, because he has no choice in the matter. And Steam, while they have a choice in the matter, it's not anything to do with Epic. Epic is not interacting with Steam by doing this. The whole thing was just grotesque, and I'm rather appalled at the whole thing.
Oh, well, we'll see. But yeah, I don't think anything's actually going to come out of it. It's just a quick shot across the bows just to drum up some easy PR.
Yeah, I think that, and if Steam dropped their share to 20%, that sort of higher tier that they offer to the big companies, if they decided to do that, it wouldn't match what Epic is doing, but the additional features and install base would blow that out of the water.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even relevant. So if Steam wanted to, reduce their revenue share, then, Epic wouldn't have to follow through on their promise, as if they were going to. And they would probably still get wrecked. Like, it would be quite easy for Steam to, if they pick the right number, basically put nails in the coffin of this thing before it gets started.
Yeah, I just don't think Steam's taking it even remotely serious at this point.
Yeah, they don't have a reason to right now, because the upfront actions that Epic is taking, including the one we're just about to discuss, are basically making them look like the devil.
Yep.
Yeah. So this was some bad PR, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Let's hit it.
Yep.
Vol's the one that's leading it.
Right.
I don't want to
So
pick the wrong article.
The big Epic news for the week, because there's always a big Epic news. That they seem to be filling the headlines lately. Every time Randy Pitchford is not yammering about something. It's Epic doing something that makes people upset. So Epic announced their single biggest move, probably their biggest single expenditure in terms of building their brand on the Epic Store, and that is to purchase. Oh, what are they called again?
Psionics.
Psionics.
Yes.
They purchased Psionics. Psionics. They originally did a bunch of contract work, but then when they released Rocket League to resounding success, it's still really popular. One of the higher viewer number stream games, as well as a lot of engagement from actual players. I haven't played it myself. I think you guys have though, haven't you?
Played a little bit at it. It was okay.
A very
I know
little bit.
Pim was into it for a while, but I miss Pim. But yeah, so they are well known for that. They pivoted in the direction of basically supporting Rocket League and doing their own internal project after having got that particular success. But Epic has announced they have purchased them. So the thing is, though, that they didn't really communicate the process of their purchase terribly well. And it left a lot of people confused about what was actually going to happen, because most people, they play Rocket League on Steam or on console, because there are a lot of console players, I guess. And Epic came out saying, first of all, that they would continue to that it's not up on the Epic Store yet. That would continue to be sold on Steam until they had all their ducks in a row, because honestly, they don't have the features in place on the Epic Store to support Rocket League, because Rocket League uses a whole bunch of the additional features that Steam has that Epic Store doesn't. And once they had all the ducks in a row, they said that they would, and from that point on, they would continue to support it on Steam, and you'd be able to purchase it from the Epic Games Store. Which, like, if anybody was trying to word, we are going to stop allowing it to be sold on Steam in a way that didn't say that, but meant it in every imaginable way, they basically communicated exactly that. And more to the point, there are no Epic games continuing on Steam. Like, they're planning to pull them all.
Yep.
So there's no reason that anybody would assume anything different.
Boy.
Failure to communicate.
And naturally, of course, the internet just went ree, as they do.
Yep. And everybody quite reasonably, all the news outlets quite reasonably published articles interpreting what their statement to any reasonable person was saying.
Yes.
Yep. So, not looking good, Epic. And I wonder if this was just a case of them not specifying, or if the backlash this time was so bad and hit some people personally in some dimension of their life that they actually care about, that they had to backpedal.
Right. So they basically let the news cycle roll over them after making this statement. I haven't read anything personally which contradicts it.
Yep.
Nope.
So yeah, it's really, I don't understand why they're just resting on their laurels.
I'm not really sure if there's what the actual points behind locking everyone out of Rocket League on Steam at this point is anyway. Because the game's been out long enough, everyone who's going to buy it has bought it.
Yeah, so there's not really a lot of point, it's true, but they are trying to, they're not trying to lock people out of Steam, they're trying to lock people out of spending money through Steam.
Yes.
They don't want to make them spend it on the Epic Games Store instead. But what I find astonishingly is that they've done this sort of circumlocution instead of saying what they're actually doing, and then they're just sort of letting the news cycle beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Like, why are they doing that? Why are they doing this again and again and again and again? I guess they just think that they can take it all on the chin, and that when it all comes out in the wash, it will be fine and will come out in their favor. And it's not impossible that will happen. In fact, it's in the modestly likely category that in the end it will shake down all right, because Steam is, very lethargic in their reaction to things. But it sounds like they are planning to just pull it from the store, and they haven't had the guts to come out and say it. And
okay, so there is a quote. I don't know if we read this. Yeah, I found it from this is from GameIndustry.biz from Rod Bersalu, who's some Epic guy. Rocket
Some
League will
Epic guy.
continue to be sold on Steam until it joins the Epic Games Store later this year, after which point it will be supported but no longer sold on the rival storefront.
Right.
The thing is that there's also another Epic statement which says that they will stop selling it there.
Yeah. So this is why I said I wonder, because if this isn't just them backpedaling because somebody got hit where they didn't want to get hit, because I don't know how to make heads or tails of all these statements, because it seems like two people are talking now the Epic PR machine, and we're getting two different stories.
Because there's the statement Ari just said that they're planning to keep selling, they're planning to stop selling it. But there's a statement in front of me right now which says they are planning they're not planning to stop selling it. So, I don't know exactly what sort of cowboy outfit they're running out there that they can have two different PR mouthpieces say two different things. But I'm pretty sure that the intention was always to stop selling it. And that if there's any change in that, it is because they're afraid of backlash. The simple reason for interpreting it that way is that they always pull their things from Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why would this be any different?
I am leaning on the theory that somebody got hit somewhere they didn't want to get hit. Their pocketbook, somebody's roommate who they're best friends with really likes Rocket League on Steam and wants to keep playing with his friends or something. I don't know. So,
well, I don't know how their sort of the back end systems work or anything. But at any rate, so this is an interesting move. I think that basically, from a business perspective, laying aside their incompetence when it comes to marketing and PR, I think that from a business perspective, this is a pretty decent move. Like for their interests, it's a good way to go. And the reason is simply that Epic have incinerated their staff. They have immolated them in the purgatorial fires of Fortnite. By contrast, the Rocket League is a game which is it's not Fortnite size or Fortnite earning, but it is a sort of a big popular game which targets a similar sort of audience to Fortnite and has a similar sort of mode of engagement between streamers and players and spectators and so on, and it has a similar sort of esports potential.
Mm-hmm.
And more to the point, Rocket League runs on damn near anything, so they can do the Fortnite thing and shove it on mobile. So there's a lot of angles they can attack. They can supply money to the Rocket League people. They can go on and then make their mobile version, continue to support the game, so on and so forth, expand their esports quarter, whatever. And in addition, I expect that what's going to actually happen is Epic is going to strip mine their staff, because their staff are all talented, experienced developers who have experience in UE4, which is Epic's engine that they use for everything. So they're going to be able to mine the Rocket League team for additional staff to basically support their flagging staff who are all dying as a result of the months and months of back-to-back crunch that has been spawned by Fortnite. So yeah, I think that, probably from the perspective of the people working on Rocket League and the other projects that they've got going on in-house at Psyonix, they probably think it looks good. They've got money coming down the pipe. They've got support from a big publisher. They've got support of a storefront, which is going to develop and support whatever features they want. They've got a direct line there now that they're owned by them. But I think that we will be lucky if we don't see the disintegration of that company over roughly the sort of period that you see the disintegration of a company bought by EA.
Yeah.
And this is the dread scenario, is that what we are actually seeing here is another EA being birthed.
That's all we
that
need.
Is going to systematically annihilate smaller studios in the name of padding their big brands.
There is more to success in metrics than the dollar sign.
Not if you're answering to the shareholders alone. Like that's what we're dealing with here, is that everything is driven by supporting the shareholders, not supporting the art, if you want to call it an art form. But
There is currency out there other than cash. Your product can generate goodwill for you that you can use to make more dollars later. You can make good PR moves and generate goodwill with your customers. These are things you can do, Epic. If you do these things, you'll be able to do dumb stuff like this in the future, and we can forgive you for it.
There we go.
If they came out the gate swinging with this stuff, and they're still going, the new Fallout 76.
Well, yeah. So Epic continues its death march across the video games landscape. There's really not any end to it in sight. They have got a plan, and probably makes sense on the spreadsheets, and they are sticking to that plan, and it will probably work out for them in the end, if only just. The part that's mystifying is that realistically they could make things so much better for themselves than what they're doing now. They could take the same approach, but couched in a PR which grasps the people that you're trying to relate to at all. You could probably turn this to a good thing much more easily than a bad one. They're trying to ruin themselves in the process. The level of incompetence on display and handling the optics here is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on over at Epic. I don't know how they think they're going to get to the end game, but I'm not sure I really believe that they're going to be able to keep their 6-month timetable to, install in the bare bones Epic Game Store all of those features that Steam has that Rocket League needs in order to operate. But yeah, I don't know. I guess they're just going to probably push that mobile version and laugh all the way to the bank, just like they did with Fortnite.
Yeah.
I mean, they own the thing that you've got to note here is that in purchasing the studio, they effectively own the Rocket League IP now, so they can spin it out into Rocket League Battle Royale Edition or whatever if they want.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Rocket League toys on every Walmart shelf.
That actually sounds probable.
Are there actually the Fortnite toys? Like, I don't.
Yes.
Go to the toy store. Like, I don't know.
There are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, that's appalling.
Yeah.
There are not very many of them, but they're there.
That's enough. They exist.
They're in every Walmart store. When I go by the toy aisle in the boys section, they're there.
Yep.
I haven't actually taken a close look to see what's there, but I've seen the Fortnite logo when I pass by to go to the electronics section of the groceries.
That's enough.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Let me see. Well, something we did put off last week, we'll quickly go over now, is City of Heroes is kinda, sorta back.
Kinda,
sorta. So yeah, over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of drama surrounding that, as it came out that a group calling themselves Score actually had the server backend code and had not told anyone. They were keeping it all to themselves and running a private server while they reverse engineered it. So sooner or later, these things, as they do, finally will eventually come out, and they usually come out in the form of, arguments and drama. So, yeah, it's all come out because arguments and drama happened, of course, and now everyone's kind of salty because they want this back end again. They want City of Heroes back.
Yeah. The Parahumans Reddit has not shut up about it.
I bet they haven't. This is a very, very, very truncated version of it, by the way, but essentially, yeah, it's gotten out into the public now, and the various groups that have been actually clamoring to get it, the City of Titans guys, the Valiance Online guys, I think, have wanted to keep an eye on it. Various other reboot projects have wanted it to just wholesale produce private servers. Yeah, there's been a lot of salt thrown at it because of keeping this secret. Now, I can understand why they'd want to keep it secret. It's because, of course, once you start setting up public servers, NCSoft could very well come down and drop the lawyer hammer on them.
Yeah. I think this was deployed at a pretty good time, though, to sneak by and be forgotten. at least get out of the mainstream news cycle, so that NCSoft might miss it for a while.
They
They
might.
just have so many
Well,
trains running everywhere that people are more interested in other stuff.
I personally think that NCSoft has probably been in the know the entire time. Like, I think that they probably have someone who knows someone who was in these private servers the whole time, and they've just been like, "We'll let it exist," because they refused to sell it. They were offered bids on it. They kept it. It seems to me like the decision that they could not move on it was made at a high level. I think that they probably know what was going on behind the scenes indirectly, and were willing to just sit on it. Like, I think that this is their way. This is the way that they've chosen to operate, is to do nothing, and then when it comes out, provided that it does so in a manner that it's not going to cause them legal trouble, they will continue to do nothing.
Yeah,
which is the correct move here from a PR standpoint. There is
However,
nothing.
That could change very quickly if somebody decides to try and do a monetization push on it.
As soon
Which
as
is
that
why they've
happens, I
been-
think everything's going to fall apart. Yes.
They've been the people running the server have been very vocal about they're not taking donations. They're trying to figure out a way they can get money, I think, still, but they are not doing it through the City of Heroes thing itself.
Yeah. So, a long story short, we brings us up to our current moment, where we have a group called Homecoming Teen, who have picked up the code after Score got through with it. Last heard, Score was still doing their reverse engineering, but they're now working. They were talking to NCSoft about it. So,
Yeah.
Homecoming Teen has set up a couple of servers privately, with only a limited capacity at this point. However, the capacity that they've got is pretty much running at over 100% at all times. There's been a lot of demand for people who just want to get in and relive their old MMO glory days, I guess.
Yeah. The only perspective I have on this relaunch is from the Parahumans Reddit freaking out. And if that's anything to go by, every single character is named Taylor or Jack Slash or some variant.
Of course they are.
So,
Ari, City of Heroes is where this show was born.
Was it?
Yes. Well, that's what we were all playing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
We were playing City of Heroes at the time, yeah.
It could be.
I was literally going through a mission with Pim when we recorded episode 0.
I was so drunk, I don't remember.
That's not surprising, actually. Episode 0 was...
Yeah, that was in one of Ari's never without at least 4 drinks in his system phases of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did college and then got a job. But yeah. Couldn't do that anymore after college.
No, not without killing yourself. So...
No.
Yeah. I think at this point, because Homecoming Team has been very, very adamant about not even taking donations to help with their admittedly rather costly server upkeep, NCSoft will probably continue to do nothing.
$5,000 a month's not a small bill, though.
No, it's not. And especially considering they're looking at adding more servers.
Yeah, that's a paycheck at my work for some of the people that are higher up than me.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that all kinds of people play these games. They could just have a wealthy backer.
They could.
To whom that amount of money is just peanuts that they don't care about.
I hope that's the case.
That would be lovely.
That would be lovely.
Because you got to think about what age are the people to whom that game was important now.
30, 40, yeah.
Yeah, these are all people who, like, the ones that were successful are going to be easily in 6-figure jobs.
Yeah. So all you need is a couple of wealthy or well-off backers under the table supplying funds to it, and all set.
Yeah. And
I mean, that's what we can hope for.
Yeah, that's the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind actually jumping on and having a mess around with this old game again. Like, it hasn't aged well graphically, like, at all. But
people were, but it was still popular and still pulling in new players. Like, when I was playing it, it was already hideously dated looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's that was never really the appeal.
No.
It was always about you've got this ridiculous amount of freedom to put together different sets of abilities and create different characters and fly around a city and blow some people up,
Yeah. And there have been other attempts to capture it between, Champions Online and DC Universe Online, but Champions Online could have done it, but they got perfect worlded. And DC Universe Online is just blah.
We played that one for a bit, didn't we?
We did.
dropped it pretty quick.
I feel like shackling themselves to DC killed their ability to do what they were trying to do, though.
Ultimately, it didn't have the customization that people were really after, and your hero or villain doesn't really exist as their own entity. They just kind of follow around one of the headline heroes.
Yeah, that's always the issue. You end up getting Traherned.
Yeah, got Traherned real bad, except it was Batman. So,
Batman.
It's got a fun enough combat system at least, whereas Champions Online is just your hot bar MMO type dealy. But Champions, it's been on life support more or less, or unofficially on life support since Perfect World got it. They just bought it and did nothing with it. The other options, well, there really aren't any. You had that ARPG Marvel one, which ended up, I think it was never actually financially viable at any point. And yeah, there's a few projects out there to rebuild, I suppose, what City of Heroes had. You've got Valiance, you've got City of Titans. Valiance actually just recently announced that they're going to do a complete art shift to make it a bit more cartoony.
I really don't think that there's much to speak of in MMOs after like maybe 2013 or something, 2013, 2014. I think that by and large the genre is dead after that point. And I think that we're going to see a lot more sort of people trying to home in on what made those games great and see if you can distill something out of it that can be brought back. Like, because people love City of Heroes and people love WoW Classic. People love all of those things. And I think we're going to see people cling to them because there was definitely something there that they liked, but nobody quite knows how to get at it.
It's one of those things that's really hard to quantify.
Get their hands on it.
It's one of those things I also don't think exists anymore.
I think it is very likely that it does not exist anymore and it cannot exist again. But I think that we'll see people try for it. And I think that within certain boundaries and on a certain scale, you can do it. Well, I think that you're not going to see the booms anymore that you once did, but I think that you can maintain a small, tightly knit community that work well. Like EVE has basically been going on an even keel since forever.
Yeah.
They don't have that issue, and that's because player politics and game politics are the same thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that binds the community together in such a way that the thingness that produces the MMO effect never dissipates.
Yeah, if you've got a disagreement, something everything can be solved by gratuitous space battles.
Basically, that is a game where the line between character and player has been almost completely rubbed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that people are going to try and home in on that, and I think that the conclusion is going to basically be that as people revive these things, communities will accrete around certain sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be interesting to see a City of Heroes running alongside WoW Classic, where WoW Classic is going to be heavily and brutally given overseeing by Blizzard. They're going to micromanage every petty little aspect of it to the point that nothing organic happens anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the most likely outcome. It's not the outcome I'm hoping for, but it's the most likely outcome. And I think that it's going to be interesting seeing that sort of like you think you do but you don't attitude trying to manage WoW Classic, and then seeing that will basically render WoW Classic into a static video game that is just transplanted through time. Whereas if a City of Heroes is allowed to run its course, there's a chance that you could end up in a situation where you're basically organically establishing new communities,
Mm-hmm.
and you're given the opportunity to be allowed to just run naturally on their own, you might see convergence towards different sorts of behavior more in the Eve mode than in the WoW Classic mode, because I think that that's how you revive, to the extent possible, the old MMO feeling, is by letting it evolve on its own, because that's how it happened when nobody knew how MMOs worked. WoW Classic was good because nobody was under the delusion that they knew what was going to happen tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard is now absolutely dictating what happens tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard for me to get excited about it because it's not the same environment that it was in 2007 or 5 or whatever.
It's not the same environment, but it having not been the same environment does not mean that there is no venue under which another environment which could achieve similar, though not the same effects, could evolve. Yeah. It could happen. Because we've never seen it play out doesn't mean it never could play out. And we're going to see, if City of Heroes runs a natural course, we will get to see two different takes. The Blizzard take, where they think that the game is the reason, and the City of Heroes take, which I think is likely to end up being more community focused.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, unless, of course, in the unlikely event where NCSoft realizes that there might actually be money to be made here and set up their own servers again for it. I doubt that's going to happen, but you never know. So, it's going to be very interesting, especially if NCSoft just leaves well enough alone.
Yep.
So, yeah. I'm glad. I'm going to have a look at maybe jumping in on it myself. We'll see what happens. I love that game. And to this day, no one really knows what happened as to why it was shut down in the first place.
Yeah, it's always been a big mystery because it hadn't stopped being profitable, and they were at the forefront of microtransactions in their day.
They were growing. They just released one of their big content patches, issue 24, I believe it was at that point.
Yeah, and NCSoft just pulled the plug, and nobody really knows why.
Yeah,
but I guess ultimately, like, NCSoft have always been sort of crippled by the existence of Lineage, really. Like they're the ones that do Lineage, right?
Yes.
It's been so long.
Now the thing is that Lineage did really well. Lineage 2 did nah, and their mobile Lineage did gangbusters. Like,
it's a game that plays itself.
It's like, you know, comparing FGO with any other mobile game sort of thing in terms of difference between the Lineage mobile and everything else NCSoft does. But basically, when taken as a franchise, Lineage accounts for a bajillion dollars, and everything else accounts for almost nothing. The fact that Guild Wars 2 has been allowed to roll on as long as it has, given who NCSoft are, is nigh miraculous. And I think that City of Heroes may just have been overshadowed to the point that they thought it was trivial. It didn't matter if it was successful enough to sustain on its own, that they could send those resources elsewhere. Like, it may just have been a simple brute force cold corporate decision like that. Well, they have resources, but we can make more money off of using those resources different, even if it is making money.
Yeah.
But what they didn't seem to appreciate is that they had absolute domination over a niche in the market, and if what they had done instead was make City of Heroes 2, they could have kept it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that game really could have used a facelift. Let's be honest.
Like, even if they just gave it kind of the Cataclysm treatment, like shake up the world. Here's new player models. Here's a new graphic overhaul. Off we go.
The thing, to be honest, and it's shallow of me, but my favorite thing about about City of Heroes was that I could basically create powers that were whatever I wanted just by changing the color, because you could change the color of particle effect.
Eventually, yeah. It was,
Like, wow.
Issue 20?
I don't remember. I didn't play through multiple issues, only a couple.
Yeah.
So I don't have a good sense of the timeline of the game, but the ability to change what your spells looked like after, playing a warlock for years on end just blew my mind.
Purple.
Or green later
green.
if you're playing post BC.
Yeah. That's actually, it was important to the point that when Champions Online started promoting for their pre-release, that was one of the headline features, is that you could change the effect of your, or the color of your effects.
Yeah, but I'd never seen anything like that before. It just blew my mind. It's like, wow, I can actually make powers that are characterized however I want by changing the color. It's like, I want the power set that does fire things, but what I actually want is to play an ice character that just happens to have fire effects because they use ice differently. Well, I can do that by turning the fire blue. It's easy.
Yep. Blue flames.
That was just the most incredible thing to me, and that philosophy that enabled that bottomless role playing for the people that were into it, I think, was really, really what gave it one of its major strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, it left a huge impression on me, even though I don't like superheroes as a genre, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm. All right. So that's that. I'm going to have a nice wallow in nostalgia, I think, provided, of course, everything's above board.
Yeah, like, I don't want to put any malware on my computer or turn my computer into somebody's Bitcoin mining bot or something.
Yeah. All right.
That seems to be something that's happening a lot lately, actually. Like, that seems to be the malware of choice these days.
Okay.
Is to hijack somebody's computer to do mining.
I know we're butting up against time, but I'm going to use that to segue.
Okay.
Who wants to go to BlizzCon?
I don't.
If you want to go to BlizzCon, you're going to have to install yourself some malware.
And just to remind people of the tragedy that was last year. Do you people not have phones? It turns out this wasn't just a snide remark at people that were angry at them. No. It's because this year you need a phone to get into BlizzCon.
Yep.
It's almost impossible not to read this as a slap in the face because they were butt mad about that little debacle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I seriously doubt that that's the actual reason, but it is virtually impossible not to read it that way.
Yeah.
It comes off as even worse when you see the details of what this app wants permissions to see and transfer data from.
We'll come to that in a moment. So, in order to pick up your registration badge when you walk into BlizzCon this year, you need to have installed on your phone the AXS app, which will give you a QR code and they scan it and they give you your pass. Ideally, or so they say anyway, is to protect against scalpers and fraud and all of that nonsense. Has this actually been a problem at previous BlizzCons?
Oh yeah, it's been. From my understanding, it is pretty bad.
But I don't know. I think it was a problem 10 years ago. I don't think it's a problem anymore.
Probably not anymore. But yeah, back when we were playing WoW, it was a problem.
Yeah.
Oh man, you can just casually say 10 years ago, and that just sort of puts it in the midst of WoW's lifespan.
Yeah.
Not even at the start.
So, if you want to get into BlizzCon, you need to install this app. When you install this app, it asks for permissions, as all apps do. Here's what it asks you to do. Read your contacts, approximate location, precise location, take pictures and videos, view Wi-Fi connections, receive data from internet, view network connections, pair with Bluetooth devices, full network access, prevent device from sleeping. View network connections, read battery statistics, pair with Bluetooth devices, access Bluetooth settings, full network access, run at startup, control vibration, prevent device from sleeping, modify system settings. It just wants your whole phone.
Are there any things that it hasn't asked for?
Nope. I don't think so.
It wants...
That could just be unbelievably sloppy coding. Whether it's like, we'll work out the permissions list later. On the testing phones, we'll just give it access to everything.
It could be. but I think it is a much safer assumption in people's best interest to assume this thing is out to get you.
And your family, and your family's friends, and your family's friends' relatives, and your family's friends' relatives, former roommates.
Yeah, this thing will go through your whole contact list, pull first and last names from every single person, and send it to somebody. Potentially. It could just be bad code. I am taking the incredibly pessimistic outlook that this thing is out to get you.
I don't understand why they're using a weird piece of software like this. Why can't they just make a simple barcode creator in-house?
Yeah. How come they
They're
can't
Blizzard!
How come they can't just make a barcode printer and stamp the tickets?
Like this
when
isn't
they mail
even
them out?
this isn't even the sort of project that you would give to like a first year computer science student. Like I know of projects that the electronic engineering department who don't do coding as a major thing. I know they do it as a significant portion of certain angles on that major, but I know of more complicated projects that are done by the engineers, not the computer scientists, not the software engineers. The electronic equipment engineers did more complicated projects than that. Like, all you need to do is have a device that craps out a series of barcodes associated with something in a database, and a method of reinterpreting those barcodes again, and then signing them off against that data. Like that's all you don't need to outsource it to some bizarre piece of third-party middleware that's
I could
got mysterious attributes.
Yeah.
Give me a day to work with an Excel document and just basic CSS coding with no special toolkits, and I could have that done in 2 days.
Probably.
And they're Blizzard. They've got some of the most talented coders on the planet.
Yes,
and
but they also have some of the most dense management.
I guess that's true. And they sacked a lot of their public relations people, so they probably don't realize that they look like demons.
Yeah.
Because it is Blizzard, and Blizzard is Blizzard right now, and has also become a verb, much like Capcom once did, although they have recovered. I think it is safe to assume that they are using this app to gather all your personal data so that Blizzard can personally attack you and then send your money to China. And
then ban you for naughty things.
Yes. If they see any funny name on your phone that is term defensive, they will then ban you from every game on their service. I think this is the correct way to approach this.
The camera is watching to make sure you don't give the OK symbol to anybody.
There you go.
Oh, boy. And with that, that's
because
time.
That means that you're a white supremacist.
All right. There's so many email topics of the week you can. But yeah, pick one. We were flooded this week with news.
And we still didn't get all of it.
Yeah, we still didn't get to all of it. So we have leftovers if we need it for next week. And we have leftovers from the week before. It's been a very news-heavy past early May and end of April.
Well, it's because Epic won't stop doing stupid things. Bethesda won't stop doing stupid things. EA won't stop doing stupid things. Randy Pitchford can't keep his mouth shut. Like, this stuff keeps happening because these idiots have gotten on social media and can't control themselves.
Yep. Anyway,
the moral of the story, kids, don't do social media. All right.
Fern's got to go work or something.
We're going to close the show out. So we will see y'all next week. I think that's it. Yep. Sayonara. Bye-bye.